My dear friend, you know I never thought I'd sit here at 80 years old, sipping my lukewarm tea and talking to you about something as personal as this. But here we are. I've lived a long life, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the things people avoid talking about are often the very things we need to speak about the most. You'd be surprised at how many old men, gray hair, trembling hands, wrinkled skin, still quietly wrestle with the same private habits they had at 20. The only difference is, at 20, our bodies could handle the fire. At 80, the fire can burn us from the inside out if we're not careful. Now, you're 60. And I see that spark in your eyes that tells me you're curious, maybe a little embarrassed to hear me talk so openly, but also eager to understand. That's why I'm telling you my story, so you don't just hear dry warnings from doctors, but see how these lessons come alive in real life. Because let me tell you, my dear, every risky morning habit I'm about to reveal, I've lived through. Sometimes with laughter, sometimes with pain, and sometimes with fear that shook me to my core. When I was younger, mornings meant energy. I'd spring out of bed like a soldier on a mission, ready to conquer the day. But as I got older, mornings became slower, heavier, and sometimes confusing. The funny thing is, while my joints creaked and my eyesight blurred, one part of me still woke up full of ambition. You know what I mean. And that's when I started realizing something wasn't right. The first dangerous habit, as I mentioned before, is pushing yourself too hard in the morning when your heart hasn't even warmed up. Let me give you the story behind that. I was about 66, still feeling invincible. I woke up one morning, the birds chirping, the sun slipping through the blinds. My wife was in the kitchen making breakfast, and I thought, why not start my day with a bit of private joy? I went about it with all the vigor I could summon, and within minutes, my chest felt tight. My heart was pounding so violently I thought it was trying to escape. I staggered to the bathroom, pale as a ghost, splashed water on my face, and leaned on the sink, gasping. My wife knocked on the door, asking if I was all right, and I lied through my teeth, saying, just a little indigestion. But deep inside, I knew what nearly happened. That morning, I realized our old hearts aren't built for sudden, violent surprises. They need warming up, like an old car engine on a winter morning. You wouldn't slam the accelerator on a rusty car, would you? Same goes for an 80-year-old body. Now, the second dangerous habit. Oh, my dear, this one made me laugh and cry at the same time. Hydration. Something so simple, yet so often ignored. I was 70 when this lesson slapped me in the face. I had a nasty habit of waking up, stretching, and going straight for pleasure without so much as a sip of water. Well, one fine morning, after indulging myself, I stood up from bed and my whole world spun like a carousel at a carnival. My knees buckled, my vision blurred, and I collapsed back down. It wasn't romance, my dear. It was dehydration and low blood pressure. The doctor later explained that older men's blood is thicker in the mornings because we're dehydrated from the night's sleep. Add a sudden spike of activity, and boom, the pressure drops and down goes the man. Since then, I keep a glass of water by my bed every night, not for my throat, but for my survival. Now, let me confess something to you that I never told anyone else. The third dangerous habit is being rough with yourself, thinking you're still a wild stallion, when in reality you're a fragile porcelain teacup. When I was around 72, I had a morning where I was in such a rush, Don't ask me why. Perhaps old men still believe they're racing against time. I went at it too hard, too fast, and would you believe it? I hurt myself. Not just a little scratch, no, a bruise that lasted for days in a place no man wants a bruise. I had to walk around carefully, sit slowly, and even laugh cautiously because the pain reminded me of my foolishness. I felt like a teenager who didn't know what he was doing, except I was 72 with decades of experience and no excuse. That morning taught me gentle, patient, respectful. That's how old men should treat their bodies, especially during those moments. You can't whip an old horse and expect it to gallop like a colt. Now, the fourth dangerous habit is one that sneaks up silently, almost invisibly. Pornography first thing in the morning. You might think, what harm could it do? But let me tell you my story. Around 74, my mornings became a routine. Wake up, reach for the phone, watch a video or two, and then carry on. At first, it felt like a harmless indulgence, but slowly I realized something was changing. I was becoming irritable, moody, detached. My family noticed it too. They'd ask me why I was so short-tempered, why I snapped so easily. The truth was, those morning surges of dopamine from the screen drained me emotionally. I didn't have the energy to face the day properly. My brain was addicted to the quick fix, the artificial spark, and when it wasn't there, I was grumpy. It took me months to break free from that cycle. When I did, I felt alive again, present, and surprisingly happier. The world outside my screen looked brighter than the false pleasures inside it. Now, my friend, the fifth dangerous habit is the most important one. Ignoring your body's warning signs. When I was 75, I made this mistake. I had been feeling dizzy for weeks, occasional chest pains, and instead of listening to my body, I brushed it off. One morning, in the middle of my ritual, I felt a sharp stab in my chest. For a moment, I thought, this is it. I'm about to die in the most humiliating way possible. I stopped immediately, sat on the edge of my bed, drenched in sweat, and prayed silently. That day I went to see the doctor, and he told me plainly, at your age, ignoring these signs can cost you your life. Since then, I've been vigilant. If I feel off, even slightly, I stop. Pleasure is never worth gambling your life. Now, let me pause here, my dear. If you've been listening, smiling, or maybe even blushing at my honesty, I ask you something simple. Support this channel. Like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe. Not for me, but for the countless seniors who are too embarrassed to talk about this. If this video reaches even one man who needs to hear it, we've done something good together. All right, now back to my story. Life in your 60s and 70s is strange. You're too old to be reckless, but still young enough to feel desires. It's like standing with one foot in the rocking chair and the other on the dance floor. I've seen men my age either deny their needs completely, pretending they're saints, or drown in them recklessly, pretending they're still young. Both paths are dangerous. The real way forward is balance, awareness, and honesty. I laugh when I think of my younger self, all fiery and careless, and then I look at my older self who has learned humility from embarrassment and wisdom from mistakes. At 80, I don't see these habits as shameful. I see them as human, as natural, but also as tests of whether we can respect the bodies we've been given. If I had to give one piece of advice to anyone listening, it's this. Don't let shame silence you, and don't let pride kill you. Learn to laugh at your mistakes, share your lessons, and care for your body as though it were the last treasure you'll ever own. Because, truth be told, It is. Now, my dear, let's continue where we left off, because there's more to this story than just warnings and embarrassing confessions. After that scare at 75, I began to notice every little signal my body gave me. I became more careful, more observant, but also more grateful. Imagine this. Every morning I wake up now, I sit at the edge of the bed, stretch slowly, take a sip of water, and just breathe. I've learned that the body, even at 80, can still offer pleasure, but only if you respect it. And respect, my friend, means patience. One of the strangest things about being this age is how memory mixes with desire. I'll lie there in the morning, and suddenly I'll remember being 25, on a summer light, strong as an ox, laughing with the woman I loved. The memory stirs me, the desire lingers, but the body says, "Easy now, old man." That balance between memory and reality is where older men often get caught. We forget that the body doesn't match the dream anymore. I remember one morning around 76, I let nostalgia take over. I thought of my younger days, and I tried to relive them with the same speed, the same energy. Within minutes, my back cramped so hard I had to roll out of bed like a sack of potatoes. My pride hurt more than my muscles. But it taught me this: older men must learn a new rhythm, a slower song, and if we don't, our own bodies will force us to. Another important thing I discovered is the connection between stress and these habits. You wouldn't believe how many older men use morning pleasure as a way to cope with loneliness, anxiety, or stress. I've done it myself. When I was 78, my health took a dip, and I felt more isolated than ever. Some mornings I turned to self-pleasure just to escape the sadness, but it backfired. Instead of relieving me, it drained me. My mood dipped lower, my loneliness deepened. That's when I realized something. Pleasure can't replace connection. It can't heal loneliness, only numb it for a while. And that, my dear, is another risky habit: using pleasure as medicine for emotions. It's like drinking seawater when you're thirsty. It feels like relief for a moment, but it leaves you drier and weaker in the end. I also discovered the importance of aftercare, something younger men never think about. When you're young, you finish and jump right into the day. At 80, I learned to rest afterward, drink water, breathe, even take a short walk to balance my blood flow. Without that, I'd feel groggy, dizzy, or exhausted for hours. Morning pleasure without recovery is like running a race without cooling down. You pay for it later. Let me share with you another story that still makes me chuckle. I was 79, and one morning I forgot to close the curtains. I thought the house was quiet, the street empty, but as fate would have it, the postman arrived earlier than usual. He caught a glimpse, and I caught a lifetime of embarrassment. He never mentioned it, but every time he hands me my mail, he smirks like we share a dirty little secret. Lesson learned: privacy is not just for dignity, but for peace of mind. Now, you might think all these stories are meant to scare you, but really, they're meant to free you. I want men and women our age to stop pretending these things don't exist. They do. We all have desires, and we all make mistakes. The difference between a man who thrives and a man who suffers is honesty. If you can admit your habits, you can manage them. If you hide them, they'll eat you alive. At 80, I find myself more open than ever. I don't have time to waste on shame. I'd rather laugh, share, and help someone else avoid my mistakes. And you know what? Talking about it has made me healthier too. Stress hides in silence, but it dissolves in honesty. So here I am, telling you and anyone else listening, 5 risky morning habits can harm older men if we don't wake up to reality. Don't strain your heart. Stay hydrated. Be gentle. Avoid screen traps. Listen to your body. These 5 lessons may sound simple, but they're written in the ink of my sweat, tears, laughter, and sometimes pain. And let me end with this thought, my dear. Life doesn't end at 60, 70, or even 80. Desire doesn't vanish, laughter doesn't dry up, and joy doesn't fade. What changes is the way we carry it. If you learn to carry it wisely, you can still live richly, love deeply, and yes, enjoy yourself fully without regret. Now, if you stayed with me all the way through this tale, you're braver than most. Do me a kindness. Support this channel, share your thoughts below, and subscribe so we can keep sharing these truths. Maybe one day, when you're 80, like me, you'll sit with a close friend and tell your own stories, laughing, crying, and remembering that life is beautiful, messy, and always worth living.